arrested now.
I've been asking a few of you if this has been helpful. I certainly hope it has. I would hate to waste your precious time, and too often we do that, I'm afraid. Let's finish the sheet, the outline that I gave to you about telling the story. And I want to talk to you just a little bit about personalizing the story. And I think one of the things that we do as pastors is that we are blessed with experiences that become applicable to the experiences Jesus had when he physically walked among us. And, we know that he did not have an easy time. And I've already shared with you that I haven't always had an easy time. The first appointment, I was the third woman ordained in the Tennessee conference. The first woman who was ordained never served a church. She worked in a health institution and never did serve a church. Her name was Faith Cornwall, and oh my goodness, I admired her. She was wonderful. The second woman was Mary Chafin, and I always teased Mary, and I said, Mary, if God had a wife, it'd be you. But she was very large and very rotund, and you just wanted to climb up in her arms and be nestled, And Mary served in Lebanon, just outside of Nashville, and they called her the Mother Teresa of Lebanon. I can't even tell this without crying. She never wanted a big church. She had a PhD from Vanderbilt, and she never was above minimum wage. I never have been either, and that doesn't interest me at all. And Mary was just a saint. She just was a saint. She lived in a trailer. She didn't have a parsonage. And she cared for a friend who was mentally limited, and was so tender with her. And says Mary never married, but every afternoon, African-American children would leave a nearby school and come to the picnic tables that Mary and her friend had put out in the yard. And the rumor was that they would serve homemade cookies to as many as 400 children. And when Mary died, I was with her. I was in the room with her. She died of sclerosis of the liver due to the diabetic condition that was killing her. And I had the joy of holding her hand while she went to heaven. And so I did her eulogy. And I walked into the sanctuary at a church there in Lebanon. And this whole side of the sanctuary was full of little African-American children. It touched me so deep to know that Mary had loved those children. And they cried. Oh, they cried. And it was so beautiful. So I was third. And I've already told you my age. But it has been the most awesome journey. I would not have traded my life for anything. And there are days I wish I could live it over because it's been such a joy. And it's been so much fun. I've just plain had fun. And so I want you to have fun. I want you to be blessed. I want you to enjoy every moment. I still get phone calls, and my first thought is, oh, please, not her again. Middle of the night, could you come? But that's who we are. That's who we are. No is not in our vocabulary. To be cautious is. To be thoughtful is. And you're permitted to get tired, but not too often. Not too often. Because what we do is so invigorating that there are times I've been at it for 2 whole days and haven't really had a nap. And I feel so good. I just feel so good. And, God has blessed me with tremendous health. And I inherited wonderful genes. But come down now to plagiarism is a sin. It just didn't make the 10 Commandments. And be real careful. Be real careful. 9 times out of 10, there'll be somebody there that morning who remembers that you're really quoting Rex Hubbard and you didn't say so. Or you're really quoting someone else. I brought books with me. I'm not one of these people who, I guess I'm illiterate when it comes to all of this modern stuff. And we have just filmed Nashville at the church I pastor that's called Jordonia. Nashville is that awful program that's on television. And they called and asked me if they could use our church. Well, I was so pleased with their description. Oh, it's the sweetest little church. It's like the church in the Wildwood. It's white, and we've cared for it, and it's just beautiful. So I said, yeah. I said, but there are 2 rules. I said, you can't smoke in the pulpit and have sex in the pews, and they agreed to that. And they paid us $14,000, which has enabled us to keep our heads above board, so we're not drowning. But one of the things about what you and I do is there's always going to be somebody who has said something that touches our heart. And one of the hardest lessons I ever learned, I was invited to preach in North Carolina at a friend's church. And they had a young woman who was there for the first year. It was her first year. And I got a telephone call saying, was this your experience or was it hers? And she had taken things that I had shared and transferred herself into the part. So be careful, don't do that. You'll get caught every time. You will be ashamed of yourself. You will be humiliated that you have given into that. So if I'm quoting somebody, if I'm sharing someone, I always acknowledge this was not my experience, but let me tell you what Adam Hamilton went through. Have you met Adam yet?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've got his books up here, and his newest one is Faithful. There's a CD that goes with it. There's a leader's guide. There's all kinds of stuff. Have you seen it yet? Because it's really good. It's really good. The one thing about Adam that I admire so much, he's been in Nashville a couple of times, is that he must have a team of researchers. He must have a group that helps him because he's on the road half the time. And he's pastoring a humongous church. And I really admire him. I think that he is on target. I think he's insightful. I think he knows how to apply history in a way that's fascinating, that captures your attention. So I brought 2 of his books. He must write one every time he goes to the bathroom. But can't you see him sitting there going, oh yeah, I remember what Joseph did. Yeah. Anyway. Adam's a neat guy. He's just a neat guy, and he's a gift to all of us. The one that he did called The Journey, I brought it with me also, and I used that last year, and this year I'm going to refer to Joseph, because what I'm doing this year is entirely different than what I've ever done before in all these years. And I am juxtaposing the life of Zechariah with Joseph. And I'm juxtaposing Elizabeth with Mary. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be with the 2 women totally female. And with the guys, I'm going to be totally respectful and really look at what Zechariah went through and how he fits into the Christmas story because he and his wife are poignant in the Christmas story. And I'm going to say you can use this. I'm going to say Elizabeth said, how? And Zechariah said, wow. I'm going to have a baby? It's kind of like the Old Testament stories where the woman laughs and says, at my age, I'm going to know pleasure. Yeah, get over it, Sarah. Anyway, we've got these stories that we need to juxtapose against one another in order to flesh out the humanity in the story. Always remember, these are human beings that we're sharing. These are not angels. I still haven't figured out who the angels in my life are. I know they're there. But these are human beings who walk this earth like we walk this earth. So always remember that plagiarism really is not what you want to do. It's just not what you want to do. And stories at their best are experiential. And when you tell a story that you can't really experience, and then those worshiping with you can't either. So it needs to be experiential. And you need to loosen up and live into the story. Incidentally, I think pulpits are divisive. I never stay in the pulpit. I walk all over the place. I walk among the congregation. I'll even, sometimes if I were talking to this precious woman, in the congregation, I would walk over to her and I'd say, honey, don't worry about it. We'd rather have that baby crying in church than any place on earth. Where do you want a baby to cry? Where do you want a baby to make those little noises? You just don't, stop worrying about it. Stop worrying about it. We want that baby right here. We want that baby. We need that baby. Okay, so experiential is very, very important. And then the last thing, and I want to expound on this right after lunch because I know you're getting tired of me, but music for me, I work on the order of worship as intensely as I work on the sermon. And incidentally, I don't write my sermon until Sunday morning at 5:30. I write it down and I leave it at home. Because by then I have lived the songs. By then I have paid attention to what's going on around me. By then I have fallen in love with Peter or with Paul. By then I have experienced them as real in my life. So on Sunday mornings I get up at 5:30. I sit down and I write out about 8 pages, handwritten on lined paper, and I leave it at home. And if I don't feel it, if I don't live it, if I don't get excited, if I don't weep, then people aren't going to, they'll turn you off. You know, she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I do that intentionally all the time. Now, this sheet that I have given you, I want you to make it your own. This is just how I do. This doesn't mean you have to do anything that is out of character or doesn't have meaning for you. When you preach, you preach. You preach. Not a college professor. I had David Buttrick's son. Do you all know who David Buttrick was? The editor of the Interpreter's Bible, who at the age of 87, I had coffee with him one morning, and he did like this. He's always running his finger up his nose, which was very unattractive. And he looked at me and he said, you know, Brown, he said, I don't even believe in God till I've had my coffee. And I said, well, Dr. Buttrick, I don't either. He said, you know why I hate being 87? And I said, why? He said, because there's a lot of corrections I should have made in the Interpreter's Bible. That man wanted to start over. You know, that man wanted to start over. So pay attention and make it your own. Be true to yourself. Christ lives in you. In you. And you don't need somebody else introducing you to the Lord that you're introducing to people around you. Remember that. He lives in you. He lives in you. And that's so important. Now, I want to share with you when we come back after lunch how cocky I am, because I've just rewritten Advent for our 2 congregations. And the reason I have rewritten it is because I know them. And I know in my heart that if I follow the lectionary text this year, now don't get me wrong, this is thought out and shared with the world over across denominational lines. This is important stuff. But there's sometimes, because they wrote it 3 years ago, they have missed the target of this year. Does that make sense to you? And it's just like if we don't take Scripture and put it into the present. Are you all okay if I get kind of ugly? I have Church of Christ friends and Baptist friends who are sure I'm going to hell, and maybe I am, but I'll still be a Methodist when I get there. No. But, there are times when we're so uptight that we don't realize that precious thing is the living Word of God. I said to my Bible class last Wednesday night, I said, I just find it almost repulsive when people quote the Bible in order to control me instead of set me free. And I said, why does anybody think that God has been silent since we wrote those words in Behold, I make all things new, and canonized it? This is the most wonderful, wonderful thing. But God is still talking. God is still leading. God is still guiding. And it's the living Word of God. And people will say, well, you must not believe in the Bible. You don't believe in it literally. And I'll say, that's right. That's right. Because I hear God beyond the written page. I love that song. And beyond the written page, I hear thee, Lord. You know, he's still here. He hasn't shut up. He's not gone away, and still speaks to us through each other and through the written word. I love the Bible. I've been teaching Bible since I was 18 years old. I love the Bible. But I never want it to be the dead word of God. You know, that's just so tragic. Okay, so does this help at all? This page that I've typed out for you, that has, you know. So we sing, tell me the stories of Jesus I love to hear. Never lose sight of why you're telling the story. Ever, ever, ever. Okay, now we're supposed to eat in 15 minutes, is that right?
No, we'll eat when it gets here, and I'm.
That makes sense.
That's
Okay.
That's a moving target, so we'll see.
Okay, I see it.
You just keep, we're good.
All right.
Just go on.
All right, and now in what we have the paper clips with, if you'll turn to not choosing the lectionary text. I'm not telling you ever what to do. I'm telling you what I'm going to do, and we're sharing, okay? So on December the 3rd, what I'm going to use is Isaiah 9, verse 2 and 6, and Matthew chapter 1, verse 8 through 23. Now let me tell you why. This is the foretelling. This is the birth announcement. I just got one in the mail this week. I love birth announcements. And it's the foretelling. The hymns I'm going to use are number 196 and the canticle on number 205. Now, I'm going to do something this year that I don't think I've ever done before. And I get excited when I feel something new, don't you? When I feel I'm going to do something I haven't done before in 40-some years. And do you know Superstar? Are you old enough to know Superstar? Okay, I was a youth director when Superstar came out and the whole world was falling apart. Blasphemy, what are they doing? But that prepare ye the way of the Lord, they all come, you know. And it's the happiest thing. It's on your Google. You can Google all the words to prepare ye the way of the Lord. You can Google if you really know how to do it, and I don't, but I have folks who do. I just love depending on people. It makes them so cocky. You know, they have to tell the preacher what to do, and I let them. I love it. But prepare you the way of the Lord will not grow old. And so when you're reading this, you will. Do all of you have the faith we sing? Is that not a gift? Is that not a gift? But let me share with you in the faith we sing. Oh, I just love this. Like a child, love would send to reveal and to mend. Like a child and a friend, Jesus comes. Like a child we may find, claiming heart, soul, and mind, like she's doing. Like a child strong and kind, Jesus comes. Page 2092 in the faith we sing. If you don't have one, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself. You can duplicate the words to these songs. You cannot duplicate it with the music because that is plagiarism. So when you duplicate something, duplicate it as a poem. Duplicate it as something that's really on time. If your congregation has the faith we sing, for crying out loud, teach them this song. This is the most beautiful birth announcement, the most beautiful compliment to what the prophets of old found. Like a child we would meet, ragged, clothes, dirty feet. I can't even do it without crying. Like a child on the street, Jesus comes. Like a child we once knew coming back into view, like a child born anew, Jesus comes. Isn't that beautiful? Charles Damon Daniel wrote these words. Like a child born to pray and to show us the way, like a child here to stay, Jesus comes. Like a child we receive. She is so precious. She's just, thank you, darling. You are so special. Like a child we receive all that love can conceive. I got tears in my eyes. A child we believe, Jesus comes. Well, pay attention to things that are available to us now that make all the sense in the world. I'm going to share a few songs with you. I wish I could sing. In my next life, I'm going to be able to. I've already asked. And God said, sure, that's fine. And I always said, why not now? But it just didn't happen. I have a very deep voice. It's what happens. So in the foretelling, I've given you some ideas of the direction I think you might go. The music is available. You can get it. Michael W. Smith has the Broadway production. He lives in Nashville, one of our saints in the music field. And he has taken Superstar now, and you can get it with him singing it in a Broadway production. So all of this is on your whatever you use. You know, I have people that make fun of me, but it's all right. But you know what I love? I love reaching back and realizing that the Beatles, and I quoted them here, I'm a Beatle person. That's my generation. They all are my age almost, the ones that are still alive. But they did some profound stuff. They were way ahead of their time. And when they did Let It Be, I have used that song at Christmas time. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom. Let it be, let it be. And you see Mary going, okay, all right, Lord, I can do this, you know, I can do this. But there's so many songs. And we ask, you know, to a maid engaged to Joseph. It's in our hymnal, and I bet you not a one of us have used that song because it's very difficult. Grow up. Grow up. It's time we realized what a gift the Methodist hymnal is. And I can say that unashamedly because I was on the reading committee. But there's awesome, awesome songs. So I have made suggestions for each Sunday. So what's happening is it's a birth announcement. Now what I'm going to do this year is I have a young woman that's very skilled on the computer, and every person will have a birth announcement inside their bulletin to take home. And it'll just be a birth announcement like we did for a little girl who was born last week at our church. So we're all going to get a birth announcement. Now let me tell you what's so important about the text that I have picked, the foretelling, is that I can find places in the Old Testament that you bring forward into the New Testament and into the present moment. Sarah and Abraham. I mean, is Sarah not a sister? Is she not important to us? And Abraham? And you go back and you find all those times in the process toward Bethlehem that are poignant, that enable you to take the old covenant and realize why the new covenant was important, and to realize what God was doing. There's a progression from the old covenant to the new. I never dismiss the old, but I have a tendency, and I have to ask for forgiveness, because if I had my way, I would preach the New Testament every Sunday, because I can feel the application of it in a different way than I can with the old. But the sermon title, Ready or Not, Here I Come. You know, and it's this kind of, and like I said, you know, Mary just, bless her heart, she just says, okay, you know, be it done unto me. I'm ready. I don't understand any of this. I don't know what on earth I'm going to tell Joseph. But, you know, okay, Lord, okay. When do you have times in your life where you just say, okay, I don't understand this. I don't know why me, but okay. And I've had a lot of those. I stop and think about my life, and I realize I've been a fool. But I think for the right reason. I rush in where angels fear to tread. And when I look back on my life, those are the moments in which God has used me for a purpose way beyond me. Does that make sense to you? And so think about those times. All right, so what are you going to do on the first Sunday in Advent? And this year it comes on first Sunday in December. Sometimes it comes right at Thanksgiving time, and you're kind of going, what am I going to do with this? You know. But these texts that I have suggested, just look at them. I did a lot of praying over this. Look at the hymns in the hymnal, 196, in the canticle of expectation. You have your hymnal? Got it where you can get to it? Look at the expectation that has taken place there. one of the things that we sometimes fail to do is appreciate the depth of hymns that were written 100 years ago. And we think, well, they're passé, they're out of date, they're not good. So look at number 205. And when you use this canticle, what you have done is you have kind of in a way reached back and taken the hands of our forefathers. We look for light, but find darkness, for brightness, but walk in gloom. We grope like those who have no eyes. We stumble at noon as in the twilight. If I say, let only darkness cover me and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. We can talk about the angels, we can talk about the heavens lighting up. Oh, did you all see the eclipse? Yes. We had a woman from NASA who came and spoke at our church. We're hot stuff. And she showed us all the things that were going to happen. And then we all went out on a hillside and watched it together. And I'm telling you, I cried. Did you see Mars come out? Mars just came out like it was nighttime. And it just kind of took your breath away. And it won't happen again while I'm on this earth. I'll have to look at it from the other side, But this wonderful, this awesome things. Blessed be your name, O God, forever. You reveal deep and mysterious things. You are light, and in you is no darkness. Our darkness is passing away, and already the true light is shining. Is that not beautiful? Expectation. He comes as the light of the world. He comes in the dark of night. I have a sermon that is entitled, All the Great Experiences in Human History Happened in the Dark. He was born in the dark of night. He was resurrected in the dark of night. I don't know whether you all have been to the Passion Play in the Ozarks. Have any of you been? When we human beings try to reenact miracles that we don't even understand, we make such fools of ourselves. The man that was supposed to be in the tomb and all this light's coming out, and we saw him climb in. And he was being Jesus, but the funniest part of all was when he was ascending into heaven, he stood on this little platform and there was a railroad track that goes up the side of the mountain, and he hooks himself in. Poor guy. And he's got his hands out and he's ascending into heaven. At about halfway up the hill, the railroad track fails and he's going like this. And he's trying to ascend into heaven. And finally he just unhooked himself, stepped on the ground and went and walked over there. And I thought, isn't that like us? We try to portray those miracles and to try to portray the miracle of Christmas sometimes makes us look really foolish. And I felt so sorry for that man. When he got all the way to the top of the hill, he waved again, and we knew he had gone to heaven. So pay attention to these things. The reason I picked these hymns is because they are the foretelling. Number 196, one of my favorite hymns that we never use, and I can't get my congregation to love it, Come Thou Long Expected Jesus. And it's such a gorgeous hymn, and it brings everything. We who claim faith of Jesus, I've never sung that in my life. Do any of you sing it? You do? I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. My soul gives glory to my God is Mary's song. And then the Canticle of Mary, which is just stunningly beautiful. And the beginning of Advent. Actually, our hymnal is irreplaceable. It's just irreplaceable. And it has some of the wonderful songs and some of the new songs. I put a song in for you, and if you can find this just for a moment. I printed it out. I didn't break copyright laws because I didn't put the music with it. But you can get it's Mary too. I actually met Avery and Marsh, and they changed my life. Avery and Marsh did I Am the Church, You Are the Church, We Are the Church Together. They're Presbyterian, and I'm not sure they're still living because I met them years ago in New Jersey. They're from New Jersey. Marsh was a pianist on Broadway. So when he plays, oh my goodness. And Avery is just outstanding. But I love this song. The sky was very heavy, Mary too. Snow about to fall, and Joseph nervous, all upset with no place where God's promise could come true. He went into a stable, Mary too. You can do this as a refrain. You can do it just talking to somebody. Do it. You don't have it? Mary too? Oh, you don't have Mary too?
It's a couple of pages beyond that.
Yeah, go on back just a little. It's there. My secretary was real careful to, yeah. And Joseph really dumb about the helpful things a husband ought to do. They did it so down to earth. I'm sorry. Well, she messed up. Not me. I'll get her when I get back. Huh. Y'all don't have Mary too? Well, you need Mary too. Okay. He gathered up some straw and wondered at the awesome miracle of birth that she was going through. A lamb cried out in terror, Mary too. The child was on his way with Joseph helping ably, quickly finding words and skills he never knew. A slap. The baby hollered, Mary too. The tears began to scream, a burst of breath, a scream so small but here, dividing all of time in two. Very special baby, Mary too. The child was at her breast and panting. Joseph full of love for this small baby, sweet and new, Mary too. Isn't that the sweetest thing? Written by two old bachelors. Two old bachelors who just, touched me so deeply. They were doing a Christmas play at a church, and the children were doing the parts. And little Joseph comes across the stage, and he's got his arm around Mary, and they're walking toward this door that is standing up on the stage. And so they walk over, and Joseph reaches out, and he knocks on the door. And this little boy, who's the innkeeper, opens the door, and he says, what do you want? And Joseph said, well, we need a room to stay tonight. Well, I don't have any rooms. There's no room here. And Joseph said, but we really need a room for tonight. My wife is so tired. And he says, well, I can't help it that she's tired. And finally, Joseph looks like he's going to cry. And he puts his arm around Mary, and he says, Mary, come on. And they turn to go, and the innkeeper cries out, breaking all the rules forever and ever. He said, well, I'm sorry. It's not my fault that she's having a baby. And Joseph said, it's not my fault either. I'm not to blame. Little things like that. Little things like that. See what you all did? Not my fault, too. All right. So if you don't like what I've done, just get rid of it. It's okay. You won't hurt my feelings unless I find out. Okay. So the possibility of prepare ye the way of the Lord. And let it be. Find that song. It's a Beatles song. It's still available. And times Mary Mother comes to me, singing or sharing words of wisdom. Let it be. Let it be. And I actually use equipment to play it for people. Yes, honey. Oh, okay.
It's a bug.
A bug? I've had some of those. Okay. For the 10th, and I'm so excited about December the 10th this year. What I'm calling it is that moment of acceptance. When Mary and Joseph, and I will reenact both of them as we go along, and Zechariah and Elizabeth, their skepticism. But put those together. Put them together this year if you haven't before. I never have put Joseph and Zechariah together. The reason I'm doing it this year is because of Zechariah's age and experience and skepticism. It's just not going to happen. We're too old. This is not going to happen. And so he has that attitude. And when the angel says to him, yeah, it's going to happen, his first response is, oh, sure. Oh, sure. I could get real poignant with this sermon and talk about a man in my congregation who thought it was his wife. They ran all the tests at Vanderbilt to see why they couldn't conceive and found out it was his sperm count. And I thought that poor man would die. I just thought he would die. And so they did artificial insemination, and they have 3 children. And it took him forever to get past, that question in the Old Testament, at my age am I to know pleasure? and this whole feeling of, but this is not my child. And Joseph was not the biological father of Jesus. I believe in the virgin birth as much as I believe in my heart beating. I just, with all my heart, if God could make the ogres, the Tetons and cause that eclipse, God can do whatever God wants to. But we need to understand it and cherish it and know how important it is that we do that. So when you look at Zechariah, look at him as a man who believes he's past the age. This is not going to happen. Elizabeth's too old for this. This is just not going to happen. And then we turn around and we say, but listen, with God all things are possible. Go sleep with your wife. Go sleep with your wife and see what God can do. I have men that I work with that I adore who can't have erections anymore. To ejaculate is a gift from God. And I can say this to the teenagers I'm working with who want to have sex in the back seat of a car every time they go out. That's a gift. That's sacred. Pay attention. Pay attention. And so Mary and Elizabeth are so precious together. We know that Elizabeth didn't live far from her when they were in Nazareth, and we know that she's a cousin, and we know she's the mother of John. We know all of those things, but see them as two women. I love what I do is I have Mary going to visit Elizabeth, and I have more fun with this. And so she's headed toward Elizabeth's house, and she's walking like this. Have you watched women try to sit down when they're about 6 months along? They've got to sit everything. So I have her walking sort of like that because John, we know, is 6 months older than Jesus. And Elizabeth opens the door and she goes, Mary, the mother of my Lord, what have I done to deserve this? And here are these two pregnant women looking at each other with all this tremendous joy and all this excitement. So have fun with them. But let me tell you what to do. That's so important. When you look at her hymn, the Magnificat, go back to the Old Testament, 2 Samuel chapter 1, and watch as Mary reaches back through history. Mary draws all of history into this one moment. And Hannah sang a song when she knew she was going to have a baby. And it's almost alike. It's a song of gratitude. It's a song of praise. And if you put Hannah, I love to do Hannah. Bless her heart. Penia must have been a pain in the drain because she's the one that, Elkanah kept having babies with, and poor little, Hannah. And when she finally has this child, what does she do? What we all should do with our babies, present them to God. Give them back to God. But put her song with Mary's song and you will be thrilled. Because Hannah sings and Mary sings. So you have the Magnificat. The one thing about Mary's song is that it takes us from the miracle of the birth into the forecast of what will happen to him. And there's a lot of people that think that song was messed with. Hindsight, that it was there. And so we really don't know. We really don't know about that. So sweet. I just can hardly stand it. We'll work on that just a little bit after we eat or whenever we do whatever we're going to do. All right? In the Faith We Sing, there is actually a song for Joseph. Now, what I love about this is that often Joseph, if you look in the hymnal, he's mentioned very briefly in 2 of our Christmas carols, but not with what he deserves. He's not loved and appreciated the way Joseph needs to be loved and appreciated. So when you turn in your Faith We Sing, number 2099, if you can find that, and if you don't have it, let somebody share it with you so that you can appreciate Joseph. I feel almost as deeply for Joseph as I do for Mary. We have a young man in Nashville that you have heard his music, you know who I'm talking about. And he has adopted, he and his wife have adopted 5 children. 4 of them are from Africa. 1 of them was from China. And one of his little boys reached the age that he could drive. and he was going out, and he backed over the little girl from China and killed her. And all of Nashville we just all went berserk. I mean, I couldn't talk for 3 or 4 days. He was smart enough not to tell the name of his son that had backed over her. He was tender enough and compassionate enough to protect that boy. But she was back there playing, and he didn't see her, and he backed over her. So when I look at Joseph, I always have the feeling of, Joseph, what all did you have to put up with? How many lies did you have to tell? Oh, well, yes, I'm part of this. I'm part of this. Not like the little Joseph. It says it's not my fault either. Joseph, dearest Joseph mine, Joseph mine, help me cradle the child divine. God reward thee and all that's thine in paradise, so praise the Mother Mary. He came among us at Christmas time in Bethlehem. Let us bring him from far and wide love's diadem. Jesus, Jesus, lo, he comes and loves and saves and frees us. But this song is dedicated to Joseph. It's not just about the mother. It's about the man who took on the responsibility. An earthly father fathering a heavenly child? What kind of job is that? What kind of invitation is that? So I have a real affinity for Joseph, and feel that somehow he took on a very, very large job and did it well. Don't we wish we knew when he passed away? Don't we wish we had more details? Don't we wish that the writers had more compassion for this man? I'm across the street from Assumption Catholic Church, and they have a statue in the sanctuary, and I've always rejoiced because the statue of St. Joseph is just as large as the one of Mother Mary, and they stand on either side of the altar. We need to remember this man. Verse 237 verse 3 of number 237 is the only place in the hymnal, our Methodist hymnal, that acknowledges Joseph. And I don't think any of us know what might have happened to him. Now, the fact that other brothers and sisters, plural, are mentioned when they come to take him home. You remember this scene? That his brothers came, and we know that James was one of the leaders in the church in Jerusalem after the resurrection. We have just enough history to make us want more, just enough to make us question, why didn't they tell us about Joseph? But I want you to get this book, if you haven't yet, and I really think that you will enjoy it. It comes with a leader's guide, it comes with a CD, it comes with some music, if you pay attention. But knowing Adam Hamilton, and I don't know him, but I've just heard him speak a few times, he has done research. I mean, you're going to feel like you're back in seminary because he's so thorough. And I've already marked it up all over the place because he does such a beautiful job about Joseph. And being a man, writing about a man is a beautiful thing, but to have a woman admire and love a man is also wonderful. And so I don't neglect Joseph. I never do that. I don't neglect Paul. I don't search for the women in the Bible. I search for the Christians, for those, surrendering themselves. You'll love this. It's just come out. It's this year's rendition, and you can get it at Cokesbury. You can get it online. It's from Abington Press, and it's just called Faithful, Christmas Through the Eyes of Joseph. And Adam has given us a real gift for this year. It's just a real gift. He's wonderful. I recommend him. And if you didn't do the journey, I think it was 2 years ago that he did this one. It's wonderful too. Do you know Thomas More? Well, Thomas More's book came out a few years ago, and it's called The Soul of Christmas. And if you don't have it, order it when you get home. Thomas More is the one who wrote The Care of the Soul. Everybody here? Huh? A few years ago at one of the churches where I worshiped, I had a Wednesday night program that was called Body and Soul. You all are not old enough to know Frank Sinatra. But when Frank sang Body and Soul, I drooled. So we used the music from Frank Sinatra. That's how we started off the evening. We exercised for an hour. And that was to care for our body. And then we ate a salad, and then we studied Care of the Soul. He's profound. You can get this one from Franciscan, and it's Thomas More, The Soul of Christmas. And it's just awesome. It is so helpful and so beautiful. Do you all read enough? Are you computer folks to the point that you don't love books like I do? Well, when I die, they'll have to have a moving van just for my books. I love books. I love to write in them. I'm on my 6th Bible this year. I tear up a Bible at least every 3 or 4 months. The backs are off of them. I love the Bible. I brought one. It's new. I don't know that I like the new ones, but anyway.
Time to eat.
Time to eat. Let's do it. You going to bless it?
I am.
Good for you. I wasn't sure you could.